All right, back in the garage here. Got the frame all painted. It's looking great. Let it set and cure for a couple days. I've got some suspension components on there that we're going to throw on it today. But first, quick note about health and safety. You see this overspray right here? I had cardboard down on the floor, and that's where the cardboard wasn't. And you can see how much overspray is on it. Take a look at the respirator here. See how dirty these filters are? Now, I was painting in here with the door closed, but you can see how much of that stuff would have been in my lungs, in my respiratory tract if I didn't have that on. Works amazing. Like, you don't smell anything. I get done painting, open the door, take the mask off, and the fumes just hit me, and I'm like, man, that's stout. Anyway, health and safety, don't take it for granted. It'll save your life. But enough of that. Let's see what we got for parts over here. All right, got that stuff pulled out. Got a table set up. I've got lower control arms, upper control arms, spindles, shockwaves, true turn, and sway bar. Not in that specific order, but that's what I have. Let's unbox it and start throwing it on. I figure it's going to be easiest to bolt the stuff on here while it's on the rotisserie instead of having to crawl around underneath it to try and fit bolts and stuff like that. As well as I figure I should probably start with the motor mounts here. Hold this guy up and we can see how it's going to sit. There's lots of bolts, lots of holes in here they have for the motor mounts, and I assume that's for different sorts of motors. These are small block Chevy motors, so should go in here. Lines up with those holes there. And then down here, this guy's slotted. And if we take a look on the other side, we'll see that it only goes through the main piece of steel here. This secondary piece that's in here, it avoids that. So I'm going to put a washer on this side just to make sure that that it clamps nicely within that slotted hole. I've got some grade 8 hardware here, as well as some Permatex blue thread locker and tank bond thread locker that are going to be going on it. So let's get those bolted up. Okay, the motor mounts are bolted to the subframe there and there. It was good it was on the rotisserie so that I could kind of tip it up, because you have to get in this little hole here to get the nuts on the back side of these guys. There's one there and one over there. And that's kind of hard to do if it's up on its side. I lost like 4 nuts inside of this thing, but luckily they roll around and fall out. Got those bolted on. Now I want to move on to the upper control arm mounting bolts. They go in there. Kind of look like this. They've got a little locking nut on them. They're knurled right there. And what I'm doing is just using a socket and a non-lock nut and a washer and just pulling it through there. So we'll get those thrown on there real quick and move along. Okay, I've got those upper control arm bolts there. I've spun the nuts on them so I don't lose them. I can move over here and start installing the lower control arms. These are the Ridetech strong arm lower control arms and the Ridetech shockwaves. So let's get started with that. I guess first thing is to spin this little grease zerk into there so that it's greasable. Okay, I bolted this strong arm on here just loosely. Just have it set in place. Now I'm ready to put the shockwave in. I've went ahead and ran airline. I'm going to run the airline through the frame so it's nice and clean. You don't see airlines hanging out anywhere. This is just some 1/4 inch, I don't know if you can read that or not, Hormy 1/4 inch 200 psi airline. So do that, throw that shockwave in there and see how it looks. Okay, I've got the shockwave bolted up to the strong arm here. The other end comes down through here. One thing they don't really mention on the instructions is that whenever you go to tighten up this nut here that's on it, you've got to hang on to the shaft of the shock with a 7/16. Hang on to that, then you can tighten that down. Don't tighten it too far because you still want it to be able to articulate in here because it's got to move around a little bit. So just a snug, not real tight, just snug, allows that to happen. What I did also is I threw a Schrader valve on the end of this guy, put some air in here, pumped it up to about 15 pounds, sprayed some soapy water down against that fitting there. Make sure it wasn't going to leak, and then as well I let it set overnight, and it's still got air in it, still at 15 pounds, so that should be good. Let's move over and do the other side. Oh, one thing that I noticed, I put these on here backwards. These bolts should be sticking out this way. So I've got to fix that. I'll do that while I'm working here. Okay, I've got the lower control arms and the shock waves mounted on both sides, as well as I changed the orientation of these bolts, and I pulled out the upper control arms. And I found the instructions that I printed off like a year ago. So let's go through these guys, get those mounted up, and keep on trucking. Okay, the instructions say to install the ball joint. The ball joint's already installed. It says to torque to 15 foot-pounds. I don't have a torque wrench that goes that low at the moment. I'll pick one up though. I assume they're good from the factory, as they are. Also comes with a bump stop, a grease zerk that needs to be threaded into that guy there. I've already done this one. Bump stops there, and then these little pieces here, which are to set the caster. And you can buy different ones to move this control arm forward or backwards on the car to increase or decrease the caster. And then as well, they're also offset to allow you to change the position of whether it's in or out. For racing, I'm going to set it in the street position here. See, the street position has this pulled back. The race position has it forward. You just basically spin this guy around. There are also these end caps and nuts that need to go on there, but I'll wait till it's on the subframe to put those on. Just got to go through here, put the stuff on here, and put them on. Okay, I got the upper control arms mounted here. They're looking real good. Those caster slugs are in here to make this normal. They're ones you can buy that move this forward or move it back. It's as well positioned in the out position. If you rotate this guy over, then it brings it to the in position, which is more designed for racing, increases the camber. Also tightened down the cross shaft nuts here so that they're making good contact with the Delrin bushings. It still moves by hand, so that's all fine and dandy. I also pulled it off the rotisserie because I think this thing's going to start getting heavy pretty quick, and it may prove to be difficult removing it later. So I got it sitting here. Next, we can move on and put the spindles on. Okay, I got the spindles here. They are symmetrical, so it doesn't matter which side of the car they go on. They're both the same. I don't have to do any disassembly here, so I can skip that part of the instructions. Jump right into the meat and potatoes. Looks like I got to put the steering arms on first, and they're in this box over here with the True Turn kit. So let's pull those out and attach them to there. Okay, there's two different sizes of hardware, 1 3/4 and 2 inch to go through the steering arm because it's thicker over here than it is over there. A little bit of red thread locker, and then it says to torque them to 100 foot-pounds, which I find is easier to do whenever they're actually attached to the control arms. So that's what I'm doing. Gonna get those bolted up there and keep trucking. All right, got the steering arms on and the spindles on, and I go to tighten down the castle nuts for the bolt joints, but I can't get my socket on there. So I've got to pull this guy off, tighten that, and then put this back on. Let's do that. Okay, got the steering arms off. I'm glad I didn't wait for the thread sealer to set up. Lower ball joints, 65 pounds, upper ball joints, 50 pounds, tie rod ends, 35 pounds. So let's get those torqued up and then get those thrown back on there. Okay, I got the castle nuts on there. They're torqued down, got cotter pins in them. Put the steering arms back on. Now I can continue on with the True Turn setup. Got that laid out over here. Let's start going through some of this stuff. I also picked up a new idler arm, so I've got to put grease zerks and everything and get it laid out here. Here's something interesting I thought I'd show you guys. These tie rod ends, they've got 2 holes in them, one there and one there for the grease zerks. And then they give you a grease zerk, normal, right? And then a plug. And I don't know if that's so that you can kind of change the orientation, have the grease zerk on the side, or what that is exactly for. If you know, let me know. But I'm just putting the grease zerk in the bottom and the plug in the end and calling it a day. Okay, I've got the True Turn all installed here, all the linkage and stuff. This is the orientation if you're looking at it. It's funny, whenever I first put this together, that was over there, and I was like, oh, that's no good, but it's because I don't have the power steering box over here. So once that's in, it should sit right about there. It moves pretty good. One thing that I did was they've got these really cool adjusters with heims and rod ends. And what you do is you start the heim and you start the tie rod end, and then you hold those stationary and you twist the middle. So like the tie rod is left-handed thread, the heim joint is right-handed thread. So then as you twist this thing, it pulls them in right from both ends and allows for easy adjustment. However, I did that. I rotated them the same number of turns, and I get it. The heim joint is a lot shorter than the tie rod end, but I ran it all the way down. You can see that it's right down against this heim joint here. And I thought, well, okay, we'll do that. And then if I do them both the same, then this thing should be towed out. So the front of the tire should stick out on both sides if those things are as short as they're going to get. But if I look at this thing, this side here's looks pretty straight. Like I don't have a tire or any real way to gauge that. And this side here is towed in just a little bit. So I might need to shorten those. That's why I haven't tightened these nuts here that connect the tie rods to the center link. Haven't tightened those down yet because I'm going to move forward and take some measurements here and see kind of where I'm at and see if those need to be adjusted, because I think they do. But for now, that's what I've got there. It's looking pretty good. So I'm going to stop working on the steering linkage right now, the true turn, and focus on the brakes. So let's open up this box and see what we got. All right, here's the Willwood kit. It's got hubs. It's got 13-inch rotors. It's got 6-piston calipers. It's all set up, ready to be put together and put on the car. However, I got really excited. I was proud of all my work, and I showed it on Instagram there. And somebody had said, hey, man, you might want to paint those spindles before they rust. So I'm going to blow this apart again and paint those guys. Let's get to doing that. Okay, I'm getting these things pulled off here. And a problem that I was having is whenever you go to turn these nuts, this whole spindle just turns on here, right? So there's no way to hold it very well. I mean, you can hang on to it out here, but I'm not that strong. What I figured out to do is take an extension and a long socket, and I stick the extension up through this hole, put the socket on it, and then this thing will rotate over against it, and it'll stop it. I'll put it together and show you what I talk about. There we go. Got the socket on the extension just through the hole there. As you turn this thing around, it'll bind up against that and allow you to spin these nuts off or on, depending on which way you're going. Anyway, get these things off here and let's get them painted up. Okay, I've taped up where the bearings go and hit it all with some wax and grease remover, cleaned them up. I'm gonna let these air out for a little while, and then I'll come back and tape up the holes where I don't want the paint and give those things a blast. As well, over here on the frame where it was mounted to the rotisserie here and over there is going to need to be hit. So I'll clean those up real quick and we can keep going. Okay, I've got these things cleaned up with the wax and grease remover. I also found these little brackets here that hold the brake lines to the subframe there. I want to paint these while I'm at it. I'm covering up the holes to make sure I don't get paint where I don't want it. And to do this, I'm going to just put a rectangle of paint on there. I want to make a nice round circle so that it just looks better and probably functions better. Take that guy, put a washer over the top of it, use the X-Acto knife and just cut out around it, and then you get a nice clean circle. Do that on these guys. Gonna hang them up over here on the rotisserie, and then I can start blasting. All right, I got a coat of paint going on these guys. They're looking real good. Real happy with that. These pieces here, even pulled out the bolts. I didn't hit those with paint. This is actually dry. I let it dry overnight. It's been drying since, I guess, about 4 o'clock yesterday, and today's just before noon the next day. Anyway, doing that up, got that going, looking good. Frame's looking good. I painted there and there and there and there where the rotisserie was set up on it. It's looking good. I told you the little trick about the socket up through this guy to hold that thing in place. I'll tell you a little more about my trials and tribulations. Whenever I first bolted them up, I had no way of holding it, and I didn't know that trick. And you can hold it by the little spindle part out here, but that's not very easy to do. I put my leg up against it, and that kind of worked as I'm trying to torque this down. That little trick, awesome. Another pro tip for you. Pro tip for you, number one, before you put the spindle on, clock this guy so that your pin is not driven directly into the side of the spindle. So you don't have enough space there to get that cotter pin in there. That was mistake number one that I did. Okay, clock those first. Make driving that pin in way, way easier. Get them set up sideways. Whenever you put this thing on here, not pointed that way. Okay, so I had these things bolted on here, torqued down, pinned up. Everything was good. Rock and roll. Didn't paint them. Okay, there's a mistake. Also, whenever I went to take them off, see how the suspension is all the way down? So it's all the way down. This is as far down as it goes. So whenever I've got the spindle on here, what you typically do is you have tension on your suspension and unbolt them and then bang on the side of the spindle with a hammer and it'll come loose off of the ball joint. So I'm doing that. Got the top one came off just awesome. Bottom one, I'm beating on it. You expect it to like spring loose whenever it comes apart because you've got tension on the suspension, right? Mine didn't do that. And I was beating on it. I'm like, why is this not coming off? What the heck's going on? You know? And finally I get smart and I get a little pry bar and a rag, like this. So I don't scratch up my shit and pry on it and it comes right off. And the reason for that is the suspension is all the way down. There's no tension on it. So if I had lifted this guy up here and put a 2x4 just between the bump stop and the bump stop, that would have put tension on the suspension and caused that thing to actually spring apart. So there's pro tip for you. Your spindle may be loose. Took me a few whacks with the hammer, but I didn't beat it up too bad at all, even. I can't even tell which one. Oh yeah, if you look this way, you can see the little deformation in the metal, but that's the way she goes. Anyway, that's where I'm sitting. Those are my mistakes. I'm going to throw another coat of paint on this stuff and then let it dry. And then we can take the tape off this guy, put him on there, and get to work on that. So, rock and roll. Oh yeah, and while I was love tapping this thing with the hammer, I accidentally nicked it there and there. So I'm going to touch those up with a little bit of paint. But if you can see, that's quite small and insignificant in my eyes anyway. But anyway, clean them up, make it look good. The other side's perfect because I was a lot smarter on that side. But let's strap up and get to spraying. Okay, I got 2 coats on everything and let it dry for a couple hours, and then I came out here and pulled the spindles off of where they were hanging, untaped them, and kind of bolted them in place here. And I haven't tightened anything down, just kind of have it sitting here. I figure it can cure out over here for the next couple days or something like that. Painted everything else. Good thing I had enough paint. There's still quite a bit left in this can. I mean, like it's less than half, but there's still quite a bit left in there. Over the course of, 18 hours or whatever, in between coats, the nozzle dried up a bit, and now I can barely get anything out of it. Anyway, good news is I had enough to get done what I wanted to get done. So, gonna let this cure for a couple days. I've clocked my cotter pin holes, so I'm not gonna run into troubles there. I'm gonna end this video here, though. I think I've done enough stuff to bore you guys to death. Next will be the brakes, but I'll do those in the next video so I can dedicate a video to those. So, thanks for watching, and cheers.